He was asking if our work is confidential and whether we ever report back to the chiefs. The only time we report back is when somebody's forced to go to therapy, and we report back attendance. You know, Joe has been attending sessions on this date, this date, and this date.
And keep in mind, again, I think I said it earlier, our practice is 99% voluntary and very few people get forced. And we would never, I just don't report back to the chiefs or anybody.
So working with a voluntary client then, who you see as a huge safety risk out there, functioning as an officer, hands are tied?
No. The question is, I hate this. The question is, working with an officer who might be at high risk, with the confidentiality, are our hands tied? Technically, of course not. The confidentiality rules certainly allow us, if somebody is suicidal, homicidal, or physically or sexually molesting a minor child, we're allowed to report that. And of course, physically or sexually a minor child, we have to report that. One of the ways that we deal with that is, and again, it's interesting, the evolution. First 3 years when we started this, when the unions took a risk, if you will, although I think a lot of what they did was because of the failure of the department, because the department had put together very, very ahead of its time, our department, because one of the commissioners had some emotional problems, and he got some help, and he said, yeah, I'm going to get help from my guys. His intentions were wonderful. So they hired a couple of social workers, and then, of course, you know, a few cops trepidly went there. They talked to the department people, and they ended up on the rubber gun squad. Although everyone swore there was no information leakage, so the unions then decided that they needed something, and years ago we got that. Please let me finish the question. So what ended up happening when we first started was that guys would come in, you know, like this, and they would sit down, and the first question is, what are my confidentiality rights? I used to make it part of my routine when I would get somebody new, just saying, listen, before we start, let me tell you what your confidentiality rights are. Back in the room now. I'm going to tell you point blank, if you are suicidal and you're going to hurt yourself, I'm going to have to do something. And what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to call you a union delegate. If you're homicidal, and listen, I've been working with cops a long time. I understand that wanting to kill the police commissioner is a very, very common thought. However, if you tell me that you got the 30-06 cited for the monument in front of police headquarters and that you know you can get him dead center tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock when he walks out, then we have an issue. But other than that, wanting to kill certain people is different than meaning you're going to kill certain people. And then I'll say, and you know what you and I both have in common? You're a mandated reporter, I'm a mandated reporter. So if you're sexually molesting a child, you know, I got to tell you, you probably ought not tell me. So if your problem isn't one of these three things, you have confidentiality. You're doing coke, that's good. You robbed a bank, that's okay. If you actually killed somebody, but you're currently not a threat to anybody, that's okay. So that's what your confidentiality rights are. I haven't had to do that. You know what? It's really weird. I think about that. After all these years, people come in, and we just get to work. That's no longer asked.
My question actually had more to do with...
Yes, okay. So the question is,
are
my hands tied? My hands are rolling. What would I do? You're asking what I'm... No, because...
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's say that they're sharing with you some of these unsafe practices that they have while they're on the beat. So taking unnecessary risks, shooting squirrels and other random objects while they're bored in their beat car, you know, unsafe risks at work. That's what I was asking.
If I could not get them to stop, I might consider, and again, this is a weird violation of confidence because it kind of works.
Right.
Their union people will come in often, and I just don't know how other departments could do this, because we're very unique. Will come in, but because of the relationship our cops have with the union, they never consider themselves in a position to sue me because I only told the union, and the union is never going to tell the department. The line I draw is, I'm not going to turn a cop in. I'm just not going to do it. You know, they're entitled to have an advocate. If a lawyer can take the position of not getting them jammed up, I can take the position as long as it's legal, not getting them jammed up. So there's no law that I'm aware of that says I have to report squirrel shooting, so I'm not going to report squirrel shooting. Suicide, homicide, and physically or sexually molesting a child, I'm their advocate.
Rachel, we have a our union delegates, there's about 35 to 50 of them. And then there's trustees, which are ahead of the top of the delegates. There's about 8 or 10 of those. We have general rules that we set with them. If somebody's going through a divorce, get them in the office, even if it's for a session. If somebody's going through a divorce, leave the guns in the precinct. Get the guns out of the house, give them to a friend, leave them in the precinct. You know, and we tell them because you never know what your partner's going to do, your husband or your wife's going to do as far as reporting. So a lot of the risk is taken out by actions that we've taken because we've learned over the years. And they pretty much follow it. You know, almost no cop going through divorce